Competition is done, finished. And it went pretty well, to be honest. So if you watched the last video, I went through all the details. Because of the audio, I did have some clips of me talking and stuff, but you couldn't really hear it over the music and whatnot, so I just left it as it is. Maybe in hindsight, I should have put the weight attempts, but it is what it is. Anyway, so the competition was last week. Now, the week before that, I got food poisoning, as I kind of mentioned a little bit about in the training sessions before it. I wasn't great. So I dropped like 5 kilos and then I put it back on. And what I was essentially doing was just eating as much as I physically could to try and fill back up. But that wasn't ending in the best way. So when it came to actually the day of competition, what I did was I didn't eat anything all day. I just had fluids. I just had basically Diarrhea, Lucozade, water, salts, that sort of thing. I didn't have any caffeine or anything. So to hit the performance I did, super, super happy. Now, with each of the individual lifts, what I ended up doing was, so squat, that was the one I was most nervous of because I was kind of like, this is going to give me the indication of how things are. And also opening on 250 kilos, like my best competition squat is only 237.5. I've only squatted 250 up till then, maybe 3 or 4 times. It was especially that last few weeks, the thing I've talked about before of how I generally train quite light until it's time to peak and then everything ramps up. So, opener, very nerve-wracking. Now, for warm-up jumps, I did the bar, 60, 100, 140, 180, 220. That 220 flew. It was brilliant. I would have gone with the bigger plate jumps and I thought, yeah, I'll do that. And I was like, nope, stick to the same thing I've been doing in the gym. So I stuck to those same warm-up jumps, did those warm-up jumps up to 220, went out, first attempt, 250, got it. It was fine. The only downside was when I went to like unrack it, I don't know how it ended up happening. Maybe when I was given the rack height, I didn't think about it, but I was wearing my squat shoes when I gave the rack height, which is always a good idea so you can get a more accurate representation of where it's going to be. What I didn't think about is the fact that 250 kilos plus me going through the ground and the floor makes it a little bit lower. So unracking it, although it was fine, it was a little uncomfortable. I didn't feel like I actually managed to unrack it properly. So I got them to reduce the height for my second attempt. Now, based on that 250, I was like, it's not that I couldn't feel it, because obviously I could feel the weight, but it didn't give me an idea for where to go next. Now, I was trying to get myself like in the zone and fired up, but I just couldn't. I think because I wasn't with it, to be honest. I was a bit like out of it. So I put my headphones on, kind of kept to myself during the squat, between the squat attempts. So during the warm-ups and stuff, happy talking to people, whatever, between the squat attempts, kept to myself, headphones on. To be honest, half the time I didn't even have any music playing. It was more just so that people know when you got your headphones on, don't talk to you. Like, not in a mean way, but just trying to concentrate. And I was really trying to get in the zone. So I went 265 for the second attempt. I was like, I know I can squat it. I squatted it last week, so it would have been a week ago. I know I'm strong enough to do it. I've had a taper, even though not feeling great, like my stomach doesn't affect my legs. So 265, unracked it. I was like, yeah, definitely got this. Racked, stepped out, did the squat, moved fast enough, felt fantastic. My first thought was 275, and then just as I was walking off the platform, I got like a little, like just a gargle. Like you just get like a weird feeling, like a little gargle in my stomach. And I was like, no, let's dial it back. I was like, I'm not going to go 270 because that's not like a milestone or anything. And to be honest, my lifetime goal for squat was only 250 anyway. So that's done. So next milestone for squat, because there's a milestone, isn't there? There's each plate milestone and each 100-pound milestone and each 100-kilo milestone. So there's different milestones. So for squat, my next like milestone would be 272.5 kilos, which is 600 pounds. So 600 pounds, that's going to be the third attempt. Now, up until this point, I'd not really been able to like get myself G'd up. I was really struggling to get fired up to actually go out and lift until I loaded that 272.5, until I had that weight lifted. It was like over the next, so it was about 8 or 9 minutes between attempts, which is a perfect duration, I think. So not so long you're waiting around and getting cold, but not so fast that you don't have time to recover. So I did the 265, sorry, pacing around, wandering around. Actually, this time I had music on. I had the music on, and by the time they said the bar was loaded, I felt like I could run through a wall. Now, something I really liked was I used to be self-conscious about like making noises and stuff like that on the platform when you're lifting and grunting and this and whatever. I'm not anymore, but also it did dawn on me when I went out for the 272.5, I kind of growled, but I didn't hear it because the music was so loud. And that's the thing I think the guys did really well. Contrary to a lot of competitions, they actually had loud music, which I thought was pretty cool. So went up to the bar, there's the two nods, there's the, yep, I can do this. And there's a second one, when I get up to the bar, it's like, yeah, I can do anything. I know I can't, but that's just myself. That's the mental cues I have. Unracked it. The biggest thing for me, for these big squats, it's the unrack. The squat itself, it doesn't sound stupid, the squat itself is not effortless because it requires effort, but it doesn't require any effort from my brain. I know what I'm doing. It's the same pattern. It's the same movement every time. It's unracking it because I'm not used to unracking that much weight. So my biggest focus was when I unrack it, one step at a time. So I don't know if you'll have been able to see it on the video, but I was really focused on plant one foot, weight, plant the next foot, weight, adjust the feet, make sure they're perfect. In my mind, the referee said squat, and then I took another few seconds before I actually did it. When I watch the video back, it looks like it happens basically at the same time. But obviously this all happens like in the split second. Did the squat. As I was coming up, there's a point at which you can see on the video where I started grinning of like, I almost wish I went a bit more. I was like, I could have done 275, but I did the 272.5, massive PB, super happy, over the moon with that. Re-racked it, all good. Off the platform, headphones off, relax, chill out, talk to people, have a nice time, enjoy the competition. So everything at that point was great. And then I can kind of like just relax into the rest of the day. Now, obviously, I'm still not eating, so I still didn't eat any food or drink. But at this point, I'd already had about 3 litres of water. Bear in mind, on the morning I weighed in, it was either 94.2 or 95.2. So I'd managed to rehydrate a lot, but it wasn't food weight, it was fluid. So I was constantly backwards and forwards to pee, just because I had so much going through. But I was like, I'm not running the risk of being dehydrated and ending up having an issue because of that. I don't want to pass out, I don't want to get dizzy, anything like that. So I went, relaxed, sat down and watched the next bench flights. Because of the way the flights were, I was towards the end of my flight. I think my first and second squat, I was the last one to go out, and then the third squat, there was another lad there who squatted I want to say 275, I could be wrong. So that was his third attempt, so he was the very last squat, so watch that, that was all cool. On to the bench. Now, I think I said about this before, bench is like the rest. So what I did was I just warmed up like normal. Something I didn't think about is, and I might have said about it before, but when my hair is tied up, I cannot bench properly because I can't get my head down. And when it's a knot, it pulls, my hair pulls on the bench. Now the bench we were using in the competition, it was fantastic. It was super grippy. But what it meant was it was pulling the hair out the back of my head as I was like unracking to do the press. But it didn't really make too much of a difference. So I warmed up, I did, I think the bar 60, 100, and then I was tempted to go to 140. But I just thought that's just a bit big of a jump, and it was, it wasn't cold in there, but it definitely wasn't warm. I was putting my jumper back on between warm-up attempts and stuff, and then obviously being wearing a singlet, it's not the warmest attire. So I did 140 as 125, then 140 as the last warm-up. The 140 felt like nothing, to be honest. Elbows feel fine. Like I said, they would by this point. The whole body felt fantastic, apart from my stomach at the time. So I went out, first attempt, 150, even easier than the 140. I think just because the bench was slightly better than the bench that we're warming up on. The one we were warming up on, it wasn't quite level with the ceiling. So the rafters in the roof, it wasn't quite in your eye line. It was wonky. It's such a little thing, but it just, maybe it felt like it threw me off like a tiny little bit. But that's like irrelevant. The whole warm-up area, the whole gym was fantastic. Like, they had comp spec everything, the plates, the bars, the racks. Like, it was Northeast strength culture. Brilliant gym. If you're ever up that way, definitely go. And if I ever am up that way, that's where I'll be going to train. Anyway, 150, first attempt, super easy. Next attempt, I went on to 160. Now, in my mind, I was actually thinking, maybe I'll go 162.5 because of how easy the 150 was. But I'm always a bit cautious because of my pec and the previous injuries and stuff. Like, if you've watched the other videos, I go on about it all the time. So I went 160. So not only was 160 a 5 kilo competition PB, but it was a 2.5 kilo just PB in general. So I hit that 157 about a week or so before the competition. Did that, it flew. When I watched the video back, it was about the same speed as the 150. Had I watched that video back, then for my next attempt, I think I would have gone 170, to be honest. But I didn't watch any of my lifts until I was completely finished lifting for the day, because I didn't want to rely on how things looked. I wanted to rely on how things felt based on my training and based on everything else. So I went from 160 all the way to 167.5. That would have been a 10 kilo PB and a 12.5 kilo competition PB. I was fully amped up. I was fully ready to go. At this point now, for bench, I don't find the need to be like as fired up, maybe because the weights I'm lifting aren't as heavy or whatever it is. I just, even with a dodgy shoulder, I just like benching. Like, I like getting under a heavy bench and doing it. So, go out for this 167, unrack it. I do a self unrack. That's how I train. I don't like to have another variable of another person doing it for me. They might do it great, they might do it wrong, they might pull you out of position, whatever. I want to lift it myself. And as I've said before, I want to lift because I want to be stronger. So even if that was to give me an extra couple of kilos, I don't want that. I want to lift it myself. Unrack the 167.5. And you know that feeling when you're like, yes, I 100% have this. Lowered it. Everything feels fantastic. Just as I get towards the bottom of the press, I can feel like a pulling sensation across this pec, which is the one that's been torn. I say a pulling, it was almost like cramp / pulling, and it was in like a diagonal direction like that. So, before they even said press, I said no. Shook my head, said no, and the spotters took the weight off me. Super grateful for them, so thank you for that. I still think I could have pressed that, but what I think would have happened is, if I'd have pressed it, I think I would have torn my pec. Not a big tear, but like a decent pull. The reason I say that is, I was definitely strong enough for it. I felt strong enough for it, but once you've torn a muscle, the chances of re-tearing it again are very, very high. So because I tore this 10 years ago, the chances of tearing it again are very, very high. I had 2 reconstructions on it, and it's a thing that seems to flare up. Regardless of other stuff, I can be doing everything right, and just every so often, there's just a bit too much, and where it becomes uncomfortable, and it gets that pulling sensation. Now, over time, I've learned when that happens, bail on the lift and stop, and then it usually is fine within a couple of days, maybe even a week or so. To add to this, about 4 or 5 months ago, something like that, I had a bench session, and it was slingshot bench. I can't remember the specific reason, but I was training at about 7 a.m. and I wasn't training here. I was training at another gym. I was training at a commercial gym, which is a really nice gym, to be fair, but their benches suck. They're real soft and squishy. They're quite narrow as well. And to unrack it is like an awkward height. This is all one part of the equation. The next thing is, you're not allowed to use chalk, which again, it's not a problem. It's their gym, their rules, whatever. The bars they have are those crappy bars where the nailing is basically non-existent, so it's really smooth. Combine all of that with the fact that I hadn't drank much because it was so early. So we got up at like 5:45, drove from 6 till 7, and then was training. So although I was drinking on the way, normally by the time I would train, I'd have already had a couple of litres of water, some electrolytes, some food, some whatever else. Anyway, I was warming up and I was doing slingshot bench. Look around the gym, there's no one in. Now my target for the day at the time, it was sets of 8, and in my mind, I was thinking about 160 would be reasonable based on how my training was trending at the time. So I thought what I'll do is, I'll do a single first at 160 and see how that goes, and I'll see if I can get a spotter. There was literally nobody else in the gym. So I went to the reception desk. The girl that was working there was like, would you mind coming and spotting me on this? Although she worked there, she shouldn't guess people's weights. I would guess she was about 65 kilos herself. And you could tell she was nervous. She was like, oh, I'm not sure about this. And I was like, honestly, the weight is fine. Don't worry about that. That's not an issue. It's just for re-racking it because it's a really awkward height for me. I can't quite get it back in properly. And she's like, okay, fine. So she comes over, she spots me. I do the 160. As I do it, it flies super easy. I'm like, yes, I can definitely do this for sets of 8, no problem. But what happens is, as I'm benching, my hands just slip to the side ever so slightly on the bar. I think, there's something not right about that. So I re-racked it. And then I saw that she had a client come in. So she was obviously going to be coaching this client. Now in this gym, there's no rack that I could have used to benching, because otherwise I'd have used the rack for the safeties. And I'm thinking, I need to train, I need to do my slingshot, I need to do these other stuff. Now in hindsight, what I should have done was just call it there. But instead I was like, right, I'll drop the load down to a weight that I know I can handle, so there's less chance of anything going wrong. And if it does go wrong, I can just unload the bar. So instead of doing 160 for my sets, I went down to 140. Bear in mind, this is on the slingshot. I do the first rep, fine. Second rep, fine. Third rep, I get that exact same feeling as what I had at the competition across my pec. The only difference is this time, there was no one around to spot. I had collars on, and the nature of this gym, you wouldn't have been able to flip stuff because there was a mirror like on one side, so the plates would have hit the mirror, would have cracked that, been a whole thing. And I know I can still press it, and I've got the slingshot. I wasn't really thinking, I just felt this pulling feeling. So I pressed it back up. As I pressed it back up, it went from a small pull to like it felt like unzipping my pec. Re-racked it, feels fine afterwards. But that unzipping feeling, it reminded me of when I completely tore my pec. So I was like, right, clearly this is not the day for benching. So I thought, right, best thing to do, get some blood flow to the area. So I went back down, I went to 20 kilo bar. I did a set of 10, everything feels fine, fantastic. Maybe it's not going to be a problem, maybe it's not going to be an issue. I went over to the dumbbells. Obviously I unwrapped the weights and stuff because that's just polite. Went over to the dumbbells, 10 kilo dumbbell, went down, everything's fine. As soon as I go to come back up, that feeling comes back across my chest. So I just put the dumbbell down on the floor. I'm like, right, clearly I've done some damage here, so I'm going to stop. Finish off the rest of the workout, do some tricep stuff, some delts, back, whatever it is, no issues. But that problem with my pec took about 6 weeks to get back to normal. And all of that I think is because I pressed back on the way up. So, coming all the way back to the competition, that 167 in the bottom, again, it's a split second, but run through my mind the whole time was this whole thing of this pulled pec that became more painful pulled pec, that caused me to have all that time of just rehabbing my shoulder, my pec for all that time. So, didn't do the 167.5. I'm not too displeased about that because I know the strength is there, in my triceps and shoulders at least, but my pec was clearly not conditioned for that load and that position and in that scenario. So there's a few things I'm going to do to remedy that moving forward in the next training blocks, but you'll see that over the coming days and videos and whatever else. Then we get on to the deadlift. So at this point, I'd been thinking with a 272.5 squat, a 167.5 bench, I think I would have needed to pull 260 to get a 700 total, which sounds crazy, but based on my training and everything, I was like, that might actually happen, you know? So warming up for the deadlifts, everything feels fine. Again, the deadlift is one of those things of where until it starts getting heavy, it doesn't take as long to get fired up for a deadlift as it does for a squat for me. And I personally find, because with a squat, you've got to stand up with the weight first. You need to be ready before you stand up for it. Whereas with the deadlift, you don't know how much it weighs until you pick it up, so it's fine. So I warm up. At this point, it was a little bit, not awkward, but with the squat for warming up, you basically look for someone who's a similar height to you, and it's easy to load plates on and off. Because they had the combi racks, you could change the height up and down, so it wasn't an issue. And there was quite a few people that were warming up to about 160, 170 for their squats. So basically, they'd do their last squat and then everyone would go. So if you look at the video, you'll see when I get to my 220 last warm up, there's only me and the guy who ended up squatting 270 something as well, because everyone else is already going and starting their lifting. So I did my 220 warm up when my flight started. So I then had about 10 minutes for my first lift, knowing I was going to be the last lifter. With deadlift, on the other hand, it's really awkward changing the weights because you've got to bend down, do the plates. I didn't have anyone handling me. I was just handling myself. My partner Rachel, she was there with me. She was doing some filming and stuff. But like, although she's strong, lugging around 25 kilo plates and stuff, that's not going to be great for her back, and just like changing all those weights around and stuff. So I was kind of jumping between bars of just like, what have you got on there? What have you got on there? And just jumping in on different people's weights. Just had an alarm go off to tell me, to remind me to do something, so that interrupted me. So you basically had 3 different bars. So there was the one bar with the guy that was opening like 300 kilos or something ridiculous like that. You had the other side where you had the guys that were opening at like 120, 140 or something like that. And then you had the bar in the middle. The bar in the middle had guys opening anywhere from 180 up to about 230. But with the way different people do their warm-ups, people make strange jumps sometimes, in my opinion. But so this bar with 300 kilo plus, I wasn't going to unload and reload his weights for him. Like, sorry, I'm competing. You and your coach can sort out those weights, fine. This bar on the other end, you've got to bear in mind that these guys will be opening first, and also because they're not opening as heavy, it's probably their first competition or they're new to it. So I didn't want to kind of step in and step over my bounds or whatever. So I was bouncing between bars. It's just like, that's close enough to what I would use. That's close enough to what I would use. And then timing wise as well, people make weird decisions timing wise for their attempts. Whereas I like to do things fairly regular, but I'm more on the flexible side of things. Like, you've seen when I'm training how long it takes me between attempts. I've left the camera recording, so I can train fast, I can train slow, doesn't make any difference. Anyway, so I warm up. I think I started at 100, because that's whatever was around. I think I went 100, then 140, then 180, and that was my last warm up. So not too much in the way of warming up for deadlifts. And went and got legs talked up so the back can slide up easier. Everything feels fantastic. Now at this point, do you know when you just get a feeling? Like, there's just something, like, I don't know what it is, there's just something not quite right. And then they delayed the start of our flight, I think by 10 minutes or 5 minutes, which it doesn't sound crazy, but it's enough that it will make a difference. So I got wrapped back up, put my clothes back on, and they had some bikes, like these actually, like the bike egg there. They had some of them. So I jumped on the bike, 5-6 minutes, just literally just trying to keep warm, and did some stuff with like stress ball type things just to try and keep my hands warm. So obviously I pull hook grip. Everything's fine. Go out, opener, 220. Now, again, if you've watched my training for the last few weeks, you'll see that 220 for me in the gym is hard. 220 in competition is nothing. So I pull that like an empty bar, fantastic. I'm like, right, next attempt, let's just go for the PB. So 247.5 kilos, which is a nice 2.5 kilo conventional PB. I pulled that, and to be honest, it felt really good until I got to, I was maybe, I don't know, about here. And then I felt this hamstring and this pec. At the same time, I felt the cramping feeling in my pec, and I felt my hamstring. It felt like it just went like that, like just a little twang, but it didn't feel like the whole thing. It almost felt like, if you imagine your hamstrings like fibers like that, it felt like just one of them went like that. But I was basically there anyway, and to lock it out, like it's one of those things where at that point, like I say, the movement's so rehearsed, I just stood up and it was locked out, down, fantastic. If this was in a proper competition, I would have probably got red lights for that because I didn't actually keep hold of it all the way to the ground. So I'm very grateful that they gave me that lift. When I got to the ground, I kind of let go because I didn't want to bend all the way down because it hurt my hamstring. I had a split second thought in my mind of, I think I only need to pull 260 to get to 600, to get to 700 total. I could be wrong on this. I'm just going to double check the maths. So 700 minus 272.5 minus 160. No, so had I done the 167.5 bench, I would have only needed to pull 260. But because I only did a 160 bench, that means I would have had to deadlift 267.5 kilos. So, given the hamstring not feeling right, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be sensible. So I walked off, walked to the announcement table. I was like, no third attempt for me, please. I'm done. If I only had to pull 260, I think even with the hamstring, I think I could have pulled 260, to be honest, to get to the 700, just because the adrenaline of it being 700, I think I could have done it. But I think I could have done it, hindsight, all that stuff. As it turns out, I'm really glad I didn't, because as the day went on and on and on, this hamstring started getting tighter and tighter and tighter and more uncomfortable. So I finished the day with a 680 kilo total. Very happy with that, to be honest, especially considering I didn't pull sumo. But I'm gonna have to just like put that away, just like stop talking about it. It's like, yeah, anyway. So, the competition was done by like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. It was fantastic. And it was on a Saturday, which is the best thing ever, because it means then Sundays to yourself to do whatever, can get on my work and stuff and whatnot. So, the next day, I ended up, my hamstring, this left hamstring, it was like 10 out of 10 level DOMS. So basically, any bending over, horrible stabbing pain. There was some tiny, tiny bruising. Like, if you weren't looking for it, like directly, you wouldn't notice that there was anything wrong with it. But obviously I was aware of what happened. So my right hamstring had like a 1 out of 10 DOMS, because obviously I squatted heavy and deadlifted heavy. Left hamstring, 10 out of 10 DOMS. Pecs, left pec, 0. Right pec, like a 1 or 2 out of 10 DOMS. And so I thought, cool, I've come out of this relatively unscathed. Now we know moving forward, I need to do a bit more conditioning work for my hamstrings and for my pecs in that loaded position. But that's fine. We had a really quick turnaround from the last competition. So all in all, fairly happy. That's when the fun started. So the plan had been, starting from the Monday, I was then going to just basically have a week of like doing what I want in the gym, more or less. Have a bit of fun, do some bodybuilding, maybe go use another gym, use some machines or whatever, just non-specific training, whatever I want. But as sometimes happens with these things, with the competitions, even with all the best hygiene practices you can, I basically got the man flu. So I ended up, for the better part of so I haven't left the house since I got back from the competition, actually. Apart from to take the bins out, I've basically been just taking painkillers and strepsils and just been, like, I've just been working from home. So I ended up, work meetings, I ended up having to cancel a bunch of them, not just on one day, but another day, so that's super annoying. And just end up having to take lots of drugs and things to end up being able to function, if you like. So this entire week, I have not trained at all. With that said, I have started to do a bit of stretching and just some gentle movement. And yesterday, so today is Sunday, yesterday morning I did, I think, 45 minutes on the bike, but like super, super low intensity. I think I kept my heart rate at like 120 or something, which for me is like 60%, so nothing crazy, whilst I was answering emails and stuff like that. Today, that brings us forwards to now. So today is Sunday, and today will be the first day of the next phase. So the next phase moving forwards, what we're going to do, I'm going to pull up my phone because I've got it all written out here so I can tell you accurately. And of course I've closed it. So this block, so the initial plan was to start last week with this stuff, but obviously I haven't. So what I'm going to do is I've got roughly a 4-week block, and in that time, the primary goal, 1 is going to be to build up some conditioning, and 2 is going to be to lose some fat. So I don't know what my average weight was over the last week. I can probably find that out for you. But what I'll do is I won't take my average weight for the last week because I don't know that that's the best representation. So I'll take my average weight for the last month. So my average weight for the last month is 95.1. So let's just say it's 95 kilos. Today's actual weight was, any second now, today's actual weight was 95.6 kilos. So the last week I've been between 95 and 96 kilos because I've not been doing anything and I've been trying to force feed myself to eat as much as I can to help with recovering. When I say as much as I can as well, I don't just mean crap. I mean like lots of fruit, lots of vegetables, lots of protein, all the good stuff that you need. Plenty of vitamin C, all that stuff. So let's call it 95 kilos, just make it simple. So 4 weeks, I will aim to lose about a kilo a week. Might be slightly more than that, because obviously the first week is going to drop a bit more with water weight and everything else. So by the end of it, I'll be looking at maybe being 90, 89, maybe even 88. So I'm going to go through a 4-week block of this, roughly. The specifics might change a little bit. So 4 weeks, mostly hypertrophy style training, but still keeping the trend and keeping it mainly aimed towards strength. So I will talk through the training aspect first. So 4 weeks of that, then we're going to do 2 weeks. Then we're basically going to run a peak similar to last time, but with an extra phase added in, because I think that extra phase will help with the conditioning. And also, we had to rush things last time, so this time it'll give you more time to accumulate to those top end loads. I do think if we kept going, I could have topped out a little bit higher, but we'll see. So 4 weeks, hypertrophy type training, your basics. Then 2-ish weeks of the eccentric loading and stuff again, all that fun stuff. Might even see if I can get some weight releases, but I'm not sure. Now the cool thing is, I will be moving house the last week of the hypertrophy type training. So then the eccentric phase, I will have access to, there will be 3 gyms that I've got close to the house. Then there's this gym, and then I will have the home gym. But I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to set that up yet. So the eccentric phase, then I'm going to do the iso phase again, then a concentric phase and super maximal, and then a power phase. The power phase will be the different thing this time, and then a taper. So leading into the competition. So the competition will be in 13 weeks, roughly. It again is on a Saturday, which is fantastic. It's the day after my birthday, so I will be 31. Now, a side goal that I set for myself a long while ago was to hit a 700 total whilst I was 30. So this is the day after my 31st birthday, so I will be 1 day too late. So if I hit 700, so the plan obviously is to hit 700. So the phases. Phase 1, fat loss. Phase 2, small surplus. That's it, dead simple. I want to be able to eat plenty of food whilst I'm training through these phases so I can recover. That's as simple as it is. So I'm probably going to end up just as fat or chunky as I am now, but in 3 months' time. In theory, a little bit leaner and a little bit more muscular, but you're not going to see anything completely drastic in that time frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a few different bits. So the first thing, cardio. I'm going to start doing cardio again because cardio is good for your health and everything else. It's good for nutrient partitioning, good for health, mental well-being, all that nonsense. It's all going to be, for the most part, steady state because, well, there's a few reasons. Steady state because it's not going to interfere with my strength training. Steady state because I can do it whilst I'm doing something else. That's the biggest one. So I'm going to start for the next 4 weeks. The first 2 weeks will be every day, so 7 days a week, 45 minutes. And then I will drop it to 40 minutes every day, and then I will drop it to 35 every day, then 30 every day, then drop it down to 6 days of 30, 5 days of 30, 4 days of 30, 2 days of 30, and then nothing the final week. Cardio is trained very fast when you have been fit in the past. I've been not super fit, but I've had a 632k row, so I've been quite fit in the past, so fitness will come back really quickly. I'm going to let that decay as strength comes back up. Steps will follow a similar pattern. So start off high, then gradually go down. So I actually found and charged up my little watch, whatever this thing is called. It was like 20 quid or something, super cheap one, just to keep track of steps. Now the goal, I'm going to say, is about 12k a day, nothing ridiculous, but it's just practically a thing I can do whilst I'm working. So that's another way, it's just expending the calories. I would rather eat more and do more than eat less and do less. And I just feel better doing that. And then actual calories. So what I'm going to do for calories, and I'm not suggesting anyone else should do this, this is the way that I would do things, is basically on my non-training days, I will have 200 to 250 grams of protein, some vegetables, and more or less nothing else. And then on my training days, I'll eat 3,000 to 4,000 calories. So what that will mean is on the 2 non-training days, I will be creating a deficit of about 2.5 to 3,000 calories. So that over the course of the week is about 6,000 or 7,000 calories, which is close to a kilo of fat loss. It's not exact, like we can do the numbers, it doesn't matter. Combine that with the increase in activity, that will see a rapid rate of fat loss initially. This is not sustainable long term. This is not something anybody else should be doing. This is just the way that I am doing it. So that's the way I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do the cardio any specific time of day. My main focus would be to do it when I'm not like away from training. So I wouldn't want to do cardio and then train where possible, but practically I might have to because it's steady state. It doesn't make any difference. What I'll probably do is just do it when I get up whilst I'm doing reactive work, answering messages and stuff like that. But it's not going to be anything strenuous. That's the most important part. If you're taking nothing away from this, it's not going to be anything strenuous. So the benefits are, it's going to help my blood pressure, it's going to help keep my heart rate down, help my heart rate variability, help my nutrient partition, all the other good stuff I said about before. So that is the plan. In terms of specific calories, what I can do is as I go, I can just go through the different bits and pieces. I've kind of like put myself off from having chicken, especially chicken thighs and legs, because that's the thing that I had that gave me the food poisoning. So I've been looking at different ways of getting my protein in instead. It sounds ridiculous, but like for some reason it's gotten in my head now, and it's a thing that I don't want to do. I'll probably start having caffeine again in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and depending on how I feel, because obviously that's an appetite suppressant, so that can be helpful. What else would I take? There's nothing else specifically that I would take to help with fat loss itself. It's just a case of like, it's the calories, it's the energy. I'll have higher volume foods. So like, for example, potatoes. Love me some potatoes, but if you cook potatoes in oil versus if you boil them, the boiled ones are going to be more filling. Simple stuff like that. I'll swap my Cocoa Pops for Rice Krispies. Now the good thing is, work at the moment is ridiculously busy, which is fantastic, but I know that I will forget to eat if I don't have a reminder on my phone or I don't have a reminder from someone else. So especially like the last few weeks, Rachel knows what time I normally eat, and she'll be like, should you be eating now? What are you having? What are you having? What do you need? And then she'll go and make it, which is the best thing ever. Super appreciate that. But it means that for fat loss, whilst being busy, it's super easy because then I don't have to think about the food and stuff. So that's the main thing. And then the actual training. So Aaron has just sent me my first training phase. Now, I'm going to today go through a few different exercises and see what feels okay on my hamstring, my pec specifically. Fingers crossed it should be fine. I don't know how much more battery the mic's got because I must have been ranting for like an hour at this point. So I'm just going to quickly run through the new training phase that we've got. Now, if you want help, then click one of the links somewhere in my bio, in the description. I don't know how it works. Subscribe as well. If you've gotten to this point in the video and you've not subscribed, what are you doing with your life? Click the subscribe button. So, week 1, foundations. It's going to be like a novel, isn't it? So the first session, incline bench, 3 sets of 5, dead simple. Dumbbell press, dumbbell laterals, triceps. Super, super easy. This is not going to be that exciting. None of the training is that exciting. It's all just doing the basic stuff. We're doing it in the right phases and doing it at the right intensities and stuff. Wednesday. Now this one is interesting because it's going to depend very much on my hamstring. And also I think Aaron's a bit insane. So beltless squat, 3 sets of 3 with 215 kilo. My best set of 3 squats is only 210, and that's with a belt. So that'd be cool. Deficit deadlift, 3x5 at 155. So that's nice and manageable. Hopefully it should be fine on hamstring. Front squat, 3 sets of 5 at 112.5. That might seem super light. I think I've front squatted 180 before. So like, and that's years ago. So I should be stronger, but it's more so about the thoracic extension. It's not a quad accessory. Then pull downs or pull ups. Then we've got bench, 3x3 at 132, so provide my pecs fine. Seated row, biceps, rear delts. It's like similar structure to normal. Then at the weekend, touch and go bench again, because that's still a big weakness. Close grip bench, because it's great. Front raises, because they're great. And then on Sunday, heavy squats. Say heavy, it's just singles at 230. Deadlift, heavy again, singles at 220. Rows and hamstrings. And then there's going to be a few other bits that I'm going to add. Aaron knows this. I'm not just going off plan and rogue, so I'm going to do some extra biceps, and I'm going to do some extra flies for my pec, and I'm going to do some extra calves and tibs. And then whilst I'm warming up, I'll have two different warm-ups, the upper and the lower. I'm going to add some accessory stuff into the warm-up stuff now, because we're further away from competition. Like I said, the further away from competition, the more specific. Although this time I might keep the stuff around, I'm not sure yet, we'll decide. So for the upper body, extra warm-up stuff, we're doing some flies, some curls, some raises, rear delts, all that good stuff. Even like just some active and passive hangs. And then for the lower body stuff, I will do some Jefferson curls, glute ham raise, probably do some sled pulls and pushes as well. If nothing, just to actually keep warm, because obviously it's getting colder now at this time of year. I do not want to tear something because I'm cold. With that said, I need to buy some more trackies or something that I can actually train in. The only thing I'm like, I don't want to say disappointed about, but with it being a fast turnaround and going straight to heavy squats, I'm probably going to keep wearing the knee sleeves for the heavy sessions and then just take them off for the lighter sessions so that I can keep it consistent and comp specific. And then I'm going to say now, I think I will get 700 total at the next competition. I'd be disappointed if I don't, because I only need to add 20 kilos onto what I last did. So let's do the maths. Let's say we have a 275 squat plus I'm going to say a 170 bench. That means that I only would need to deadlift 255 kilos. So yeah, 700 should be in the bag. As long as I don't get hurt, touch wood, I'm stood on a wooden platform. As long as I don't get hurt, keep on top of things, then everything should be fine. Looking forward to it. What I'm going to do now is, I'm going to do a physique update thing. There you go, done. No, what I'm going to do is after I film this, I'm going to do some cardio. The cardio I'm going to do, so normally, like I said, I would just do it on the bike or whatever, but I don't want to do that today. So I'm going to set up a timer, on the minute, every minute timer. And I'm going to do, I think I'll do the ski erg, I think I'll just do the ski erg and the assault bike. So I'll alternate between each one every minute. So, because I want to keep my heart rate relatively low, I'll just do like 12 calories on the ski erg in the first minute and jump on the assault bike and just do 12 calories on that. So the assault bike will be slightly higher intensity, but neither of them will see my heart rate go above like 65%. So I'll do that probably for half an hour or so, because today is like my pre-day of starting. I'm going to go through and do a few different exercises, nothing crazy, just testing stuff, see how it feels. I'm not going to bother filming any of them. I'm going to try, well, don't hold me to this, but I'm going to try and do one of these every day, because I put up some polls and whatever, and people seem to be interested in it. So I'll do my best to try, and I'll try and do them at home as well, because there's more stuff. That's the other thing, again, if you made it this far. So I made a free group on Telegram. And what I'm going to do is, on the days off where I'm not training, I'm basically going to go through and do technique analysis for people, and I'm going to go through and answer whatever questions and stuff you've got, and anything else I feel like covering. If I decide to take you with me when I'm doing something else, then I'll do that. If not, then I won't. So if you want to get involved with that, then the link below this might be working by then. If it's not, send me a message on Instagram. It's at Dr. Adam Sawyers. If you can't spell it, Google it, it'll come up. And send me a message, and I'll just send you a direct invite to the free group so you can get feedback and stuff. And then, finally, I'm going to go and do like a physique update type thing now. So if you don't want to watch that, stop the video here, and then this is going to be the end of it for today. So I'll do the physique update thing now because I need to get changed. Then I will do the cardio, and then I will try out the different exercises and stretching, and then I'll see you tomorrow because I'll be back at doing this. So tomorrow is a day off. So you'll see like a normal day. I'll be answering some questions and we'll go from there. Right. Cutting to me being somewhere in my pants in 3, 2, 1. You've been warned now. Okay, clearly this is not me in my pants. But what I tend to do, or what I like to do is, if I'm doing any like physique updatey type things, I like to do them in front of a door because doors are usually the same size. So you've got the door for reference for stuff. So you can see if progress has been made. So now I'm going to change. I was just checking the camera worked for that. Like, this is the last warning. The next time you see me, I will be wearing not much. I just watch/listen back to some of that. So I'm just putting this in as another warning before I do it. It's just me talking for like 10 minutes, basically wearing just my pants. Don't watch it. It's not worth it. This is for future me to look at. Also, you can still hear that I've still got a bit of a cold. So hopefully it's going to be gone. But what I will do is, I've done the tests for the thing that everyone knows about, and that was all fine. So it's just a normal cold or whatever. I won't train in the gym when we've got other people in, so I'm not risking passing anything on. You already know I don't like doing that. And the other thing is, well, there's two things. One is I didn't realise how much body fat I've got. Like, I knew I had some, but it's interesting to see it on video, especially around my lower back and lower abs. Like, I knew there was fat there, but I didn't realise just how much because I don't tend to look at myself like that very, very often. But the other thing is I also didn't realise how muscular my back was because, again, I don't look at it. We don't have any mirrors in this gym, so there's nowhere to see it. So that's kind of cool. So what I'll do is I probably won't bother doing this every week. I'll probably just do it again in 4 weeks, unless someone specifically wants me to. Like, all it takes is one person specifically wanting me to, and I'll do it. I might do it in different lighting and stuff so you can see, but this is like a good, it's consistent. It's a Sunday, so there's no one else in the gym and stuff like that. Anyway, now I'm going to crack on, do my cardio, do my training, and now I will put the clip of me in my pants. So enjoy, if you enjoy that sort of thing. Take care. So this is it, like, I've given you so many warnings about this. I don't know, will I bother doing this? I don't know if I could be bothered to do this every week. I was going to do it at home, but I can't really be bothered to do that. So this is, obviously I've not done any training or anything yet today. So I guess we'll see. Trousers on, trousers off. I don't know. It's not going to be a good look, is it? So this is what an overweight powerlifter looks like just after competing. Look at that agility as well, to bend over like that. Right. I'll have a hat off too. So I stand here. I feel like there are some like bodybuilding poses or something. So this is just if I stand normally, nothing. And then I think, is that front relaxed? It don't look relaxed. And then this is the one that I think is where most people would like recognize as some kind of bodybuilding type pose. You know what else there is there? There's like a front lat spread. That's the thing bodybuilders do, isn't it? I'm not sure what else. I guess I could do the same thing from behind. This is actually more tiring than I expected. Most important muscle, probably calves, I guess. And then I think that's it. So right now, I would guess maybe like 20% body fat, something like that. So if I lose 5 kilos or so, I'd be like substantially leaner. Probably still not going to be like shredded or anything like that. I've seen bodybuilders do this one, where they do that on the side. I'm not sure if that's how to do it properly. And the same like this too. Also, I don't know what you can see. This could look horrendous. I feel like I probably should. I should probably check this before I post it instead of just putting it straight up. Try it on this side. Or I just blur my face out, I don't know. And then this one, I think it's like that. I'm not sure. So if I was to become a bodybuilder, which obviously I'm not, I think I'm, well, I need to get some clothes. So obviously the next goal is going to be, and I don't actually have very muscular quads despite having a big squat. Like my quad's fairly big, my hamstrings are basically non-existent, which is probably why my conventional deadlift is so bad. My erectors, I feel like they're quite muscular. They're like probably from the side, I don't know, I'd imagine my lower back muscles stick out a fair bit, but I don't know. So obviously the first goal is 700 total. And I was talking with my coach, and we said about 800 probably isn't unrealistic, because although, so I'm 95 kilos now, but I'm not actually very like, it's gonna sound ridiculous, I'm not actually that muscular. So there's a lot of me that doesn't have muscle filled out. So like my arms, for example, they're not actually that thick. Like from the back, my tricep, there is some muscle there, but like I've got relatively long limbs and they could definitely get thicker. Obviously I know I'm carrying some fat and whatever, but that will come and go over time. That's not a problem. And even like my pecs, because of this one, because of this big hole, I don't think this will ever be particularly big and strong, but I can make my front delt strong and my arms stronger to overcome it. So I think there's like I think I've got quite a lot of real estate to put more muscle onto my frame. So like if I'm 95 now, if I cut down to 90, then back up to 96, 91, 97, 92, 98, 93, and so on, bounce back between the two. Eventually, I think 100 kilos and 800 kilo total would be a good idea. So if I can put that amount of muscle mass on, eventually I should have a big total, because then losing fat's not actually like the hardest thing in the world, is it? So like the difference, so I will look in 4 or 5 weeks probably bigger than I am now, even though I'm going to be smaller, just because the fat's no longer covering it up. So I'm just ranting at this point. Can you tell? I feel very comfortable talking to the camera when it's about training and stuff like that. But when it comes to like the physique type stuff, because it's something I'm not like overly involved with, it's not quite the same. But I do think it's important to do things that you're not always comfortable with. Nothing you're super not comfortable with, but reasonable things that you're not comfortable with. So I think I definitely have space to put more muscle on my frame, and also can be leaner. So then if I can get that up to like an 800 total, I think that'll be pretty cool. Like a 300 squat. I genuinely think I have the potential to squat 300 kilos, because my legs are not that big. And if I could put a good amount of real estate onto my legs, so that then I could push them up, push that squat number up significantly. that's another thing as well. I don't know whether it will come across on the video or not, but I've got fairly broad shoulders, and although there's fat around it, my waist is fairly narrow. So that's why I think there's more space to put more muscle on. And that's also why I struggle so much with the stability of walking out the squats. But I will do the best with what I've got, because that's all you can do at the end of the day. So, next up, I said I would do this when I was getting changed. I need to go get my shorts and get changed again. This is going to be the end of it today. I don't even know how much of this I'm going to bother putting in because it felt super awkward. If you've watched this, like all the way to this point, put a comment below saying end or something like that, because I'd be really interested to know who actually makes it all the way through to this. And I tell you what I might do is when I'm doing my cardio tomorrow, I might edit in the lifts from the weekend over me talking about this, but then I also might not. That's it for today. Or is it? Yeah, no, it is. Take care.